transfers on a basketball as well. Got a lot of stuff to get to. Let's get started here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we got a lot to get to this show. There were people that were worried about Arizona football after losing Dorian Singer to the transfer portal, and quite frankly, that was a legitimate concern because there are certainly things that it's difficult to replace a guy like a Dorian Singer. There's, not really breaking any news there. When you get a guy who caught for 1,100 yards, almost 100 yards per game, generally you just don't replace guys like that, for lack of a better term. But right now, I think we're also at the stage, though, where Jedd Fisch clearly knows what he's doing. Think about it. Think about this last year when he was asked about the quarterback situation at U of A, and he said, it's my job to be able to upgrade at these positions, and that's something that I got to be able to do. And guess what? He did it. Now, there's certain positions that he knows that he's got to be able to upgrade here this coming year, and obviously defense is one of them, but we're going to talk about the offensive side of the ball here first because I think a lot of people are concerned. I say as long as Jedd Fisch is here, do not worry about the offensive side of the ball. He's going to be fine. Whatever you think of him as a coach, he is going to be able to bring in players, and I don't think that there's any doubt about that. Just look at it, just look at this overhaul this past offseason where he was able to bring in Jayden de Laura, Jacob Cowing, T-Mac, Kevin Green Jr., who we're going to get back to in a second. You name it, he was able to do it. So again, there's some pretty good stuff going on in there as well. So, let's talk about at the wide receiver position right here. Again, losing Jacob Cowing isn't optimal. Losing Dorian Singer isn't optimal. Not going to sit here and pretend that it's a good thing because it clearly isn't. But this is still arguably, well, you know what? I'm not going to even say arguably. I'm going to say that this is the best. I'm going to say that this is the best. This is still the best wide receiving unit in the conference. And, quite frankly, I'm going to say that it's also one of the handful of best in college football. The one thing that we've seen with Fisch, again, is that he knows how to hit the transfer portal. He's going to continue to hit the transfer portal in a big way. But let's just look at who you still have here. You have Jacob Cowing, who led all of college football in yards after catch last year. He is he's just a big time player. There's really no other way around it. And he could catch easily for 1,100 yards or 11, 12, 13, 1,400 yards this coming season. He's probably got a little bit of NIL money with him as well. So he's probably not going to object to any of that, but he's also got players flanking him that fit perfectly with what he wants to do. And you say, who are those players? Well, first and foremost, you got a T-Mac. You've got a T-Mac who is really, I think, going to really step into his own this year. Not that he wasn't good this past year, but I think he's really going to step into, kind of that next level play where you look at it and you're like, man, he just caught for 1,200 yards and 13 touchdowns or something like that. I could certainly see him having that kind of a role this coming year for Arizona football. Then you still got, again, you got Kevin Green Jr. I am a big fan of Kevin Green Jr. There's really no, you watch him and if you watched him in the spring, you could just tell that he had a little bit of pep. He had a little bit of juice. He had a little bit of juice to him that, just wasn't quite. That wasn't. You generally don't expect to see from a guy like that who, is coming to the U of A. Generally, it takes a little bit more time. He is. He's a next level type guy. Um, Now, let's talk about how they all fit, how everybody all fits in right there. So, Arizona right now is loaded at the receiving core. Now, let's look at the quarterback position. Who's going to get him the ball? Arizona is also equally loaded at the quarterback position. So, you got Jaden DeLora. Now I know there was a little bit of feast or famine with JDL. Not saying that there wasn't, but he was still a pretty good football player last year. He was definitely better than what Arizona's had in a long time. But let's say that he gets injured. Let's say that he struggles. And again, obviously don't want any of those to occur. But Arizona's in really, really good shape. Arizona's in really, really good shape right now. Whereas Noah Fafita is, again, he's probably only about 5'7", but he's got a huge arm. He makes the all right. So we got Noah Fafita. He's got the big arm, and I know a lot of people are worried about his height. He's only 5'7". I don't really care because he's able. Again, it doesn't really mean anything going forward because he doesn't get he doesn't get the ball knocked down at the line. He doesn't just stuff like that. And again, when you've got a guy like Braden Dorman too coming in, it really kind of alleviates those concerns, because how many times in the past were you like, man, if our quarterback gets hurt, we got Adam Austin coming in, or we got Ryan O'Hara, and that's obviously not a great thing. So again, we'll find out. Now, looking at the rest of these, excuse me, screen keeps buffering. Looking at the portal though now, looking at some of the latest guys. I like Jalen John. I actually thought Jalen John should have probably played a little bit more, but at the same time, he also is a player who, is probably replaceable at this point. I hate saying that, but he's just probably replaceable. You got DJ Williams, you got Michael Wiley, you've got Jonah Coleman, who's going to take that next step. You got Brandon Johnson coming in from California. The coaching staff loves. There's a lot to really like about this running back unit. So again, Jalen John probably not going to ever really get any carries there. Totally wish him nothing but the best. Woody Jean as well. Offensive linemen. Yes, Arizona needs linemen, but what you're finding with a lot of these Sumlin era recruits, and this isn't their fault, to be clear here, this isn't their fault. A lot of them just weren't quite good enough. It sucks to say that. A lot of them, Kevin Sumlin recruited at a mid-major level at a Power 5 school. So, and that's just kind of what it is. Jedd Fisch is looking to turn this into a top 25 program, and so far he's doing that. So, and again, so that means that there's going to be a little bit of time, but I think we'll get to that he'll get to that at that point. Defensively, you're going to see a lot of guys that have entered the portal. Again, Keon Bars was really good 2 years ago, really struggled this past year. Paris Shand, okay. But like I said in the previous pod, both those guys were going to, in my opinion, probably take a back seat here. They probably weren't going to be playing a ton, mainly because I think with Jacob Kangaika, with Tai Uiagalelei, these are players that, again, had pretty much surpassed them in the depth chart. And and I don't think that they were going to ever really look back. Then you look at some of the other players too as well. It just makes sense, especially with this youth movement coming in here, that these guys are going to be playing. So again, that's kind of where we're at. Now, when it gets to the overall big picture of this program, I would expect Arizona to start getting some big time transfer commits coming in here shortly. I don't know if it's going to happen today. I don't know if it's going to happen tomorrow. But one thing about Jedd Fisch, and we've talked about this for years, or not years, but we've talked about this for quite a while, is that he knows how to accumulate talent. He knows how to bring in players. That's what he said from day one. And it's going to be up to him to continue to do that. But I also have no doubt that he's going to be able to do that. He's a big time player, right? Or he's a big time coach in that regard. So really big things coming in the future for him. And, we'll find out. Now, we're going to talk a little bit of Arizona basketball here. But first, all right, hold on here. Let me just make sure on this. But first, all right, let's talk a little bit of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the number one spot to go for all of your job hiring purposes. You need a job through LinkedIn's going to be able to help you with it. And there's a reason that everybody goes to LinkedIn. It's because it works. You can get the applicants you need for free. This segment sponsored by LinkedIn. Check it out. But again, there's so many people out there that say, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do with finding help or finding a job. That's what LinkedIn's there for. So again, go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free there. And again, when so many people use it, there's a reason that so many people use it. So check it out. Again, linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Get the applicants you need for free. This segment was sponsored by LinkedIn. Good. All right. Now, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit of Arizona men's basketball. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we got even more Arizona basketball. So you look around the landscape of college hoops, and if you watched the other night, if you watched Texas against Illinois, or if you watched any myriad of games, there isn't a team out there, with the possible exception of Houston, who really, kind of scares you, for lack of a better term. You watch everybody, because again, there's not that insurmountable UNLV Duke type team that is just kind of, next level. Everybody's got flaws. So I think people need to pump the brakes a little bit when they're looking at Arizona basketball. And they're like, oh, we're not good, or, we're not playing good ball or anything like that. Arizona right now is just kind of, for lack of a better term, Arizona's kind of like every other top 10 team in the country, in that they're going to struggle at times because they're not, again, it's not an insurmountable team, but they're also very good. You look at around the country, there are teams in the top 10 that are taking losses left and right. And Arizona's in one of those. Now, there are some things that with Arizona that you need to look at, and you're probably saying to yourself that I'd like to see a little bit more of. I would love to see a little bit more of, I'm just got to be honest here. Pelle Larsson. Need Pelle to, Tommy Lloyd talked about his expectations for Pelle this past offseason. And he said that he thinks that Pelle should be an all-conference type player and be in competition for the defensive player of the year in the conference. The defensive player of the year in the conference, that has certainly, that I'm not saying that's off the table, but right now, Pelle just hasn't been good enough. Offensively, he's really struggled, and there's really no other way around that. And I don't think that that's something that Arizona expected. As a matter of fact, I think Arizona thought that he would be a 14, 15 point per game guy. Now, granted, there's some other players in there that, are going to be able to, have been able to pick up the slack a little bit. But Pella was thought to be one of the top 2 or 3 players on this team this coming year, and that just hasn't happened. And quite frankly, it hasn't even come close to happening. And Arizona needs him to step the game up. Kirk Risa overall has been good. Again, he hasn't been perfect, but I don't know anybody coming into this year that wanted Kirk Risa to be perfect. As a matter of fact, I don't know anybody that expected him to be perfect. I think people just wanted him to be able to, how do I put this? I think people just wanted Kerr to be able to get that next, get that shooting percentage up, get it to where he is really a comfortable guy out there. And again, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where Arizona is, but I also think right now you're looking at a team that is kind of reliant on him making some big shots. That's just kind of the way it is. But that's something, when you're the point guard of Arizona, you sign up for. And again, he's been much better this year. Just got to keep continuing to be consistent. Courtney Ramey, would love for him to kind of take that next step. You can see that he's capable of it. You can see that he's a pretty darn good player. Big fan of Courtney Ramey and what he can do out there. But you would also like to see him be able to get somewhere around you really would like to see him be able to get somewhere around that 14, 15 point per game guy, because again, he has done a lot of things. He's done a lot of things in the past that, show that he can really be kind of a tough as nails type guy that Arizona hasn't really had. It doesn't have at that lead guard or at that guard position. And I think you're going to see him take some of that burden off of Kerr. I also don't know that you're going to see a ton of Kylan Boswell going forward. It's awesome that he's here, but I also don't think that he is ready. I think next year he could be that. But right now, I think those are your 2 guards. Okay, now I'm going to tell you about BetOnline, the BetOnline sportsbook. How many times have you talked with somebody and they're like, really, I'm intrigued by the idea of online betting, but it's a little intimidating, or, I just don't know how it works. BetOnline is here for you. The BetOnline Sportsbook. Check it out. All right. So let's say that you're watching an Arizona game and you're like, man, these guys are good. These guys are better than what I expected them to be. That's where you get on to BetOnline. The BetOnline Sportsbook has you covered. And again, if you want to go on there and back the A, that's where I would go. You can find all the latest odds, news, and scores right there. BetOnline has been around forever. There's a reason it's been around. Told you before the year to take the over of 2.5 wins for Arizona football. If you had done that, you'd be a rich person, because again, Arizona got 5 wins. Maybe we'll have a little bit of maybe we'll have a few nuggets here and there going forward, but check it out. BetOnline Sportsbook. We'll be right back with you. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, now we got a lot more to get to here, but just want to talk for a second about where Arizona athletics is in the grand scheme of things, because Arizona athletics is in a very, very good spot. And I'm not really breaking any news right there. You watch this program under Tommy Lloyd for basketball, and they're obviously back. They're back in the top 10, and you get the sense that as long as the Tommy gun is there, Arizona's not going anywhere. Then with Arizona football, Jedd Fisch, I think Arizona is going to get some preseason top 25 votes next year. That just goes to show you how well he's overhauled this program in a very, very short window of time. So big kudos to what Dave Hickey and President Robbins have been able to do, because again, this wasn't easy. I think a lot of people were wondering, first of all, these weren't big time hires. People looked at it, and Tommy Lloyd was a career assistant. Jedd Fisch was a journeyman, for lack of a better term. And these are both guys that Dave Hickey and President Robbins zeroed in on immediately. And so again, big kudos to them. All right, we'll be back with you tomorrow, getting you ready, because again, Arizona, Indiana, we're going to have a big, big preview on that game. So we're going to let everybody out there know about that and everything that's been going on. But as always, really appreciate you keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. You have a great rest of your Thursday. And as always, thanks for making this your first listen of the day. We'll be back